TLC. Welcome to a lovely Sunday morning. We're happy to have you here with us. We're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to start off with announcements just so everyone knows what's going on, what we have upcoming, and I invite you all to say with me now, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. I invite you now to take a few deep breaths. Relax your body. Relax your mind. Put your day and week that you have had aside. All future worries about what's coming up next week, just let it go for now. And be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I'm ready to surrender the conflicts of my own ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply. Filling my mind with thoughts that are only constructive, positive, loving, and beautiful, I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words: I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains me, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and I say, I am grateful for the good in your life. I now open my eyes to the world around me, turn joyfully to anyone in the room with me or virtually on this service, and share in gratitude and confidence by saying, I am grateful for the good in all of your lives. Grateful, 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 grateful.
So, I welcome you here, as have others, to Creative Life Spiritual Center for our Sunday online and a series. We're still making up what the September series is going to be, but the August series is on your extra senses. The first, what is this, the fourth Sunday? The first three senses that we considered are pretty much, or sets of senses, are pretty much receptive. They're kind of passive. You take in information. Today and next week will be about senses that are active through you. How you are the sense, and I am the sense that Spirit is having of itself in creation. We're the mechanism by which things happen. And today is about miracles and wonders. Now, I come up with these titles, 6-8 weeks at least before the Sunday in question, and so I came up with the age of miracles and wonders for today, wondering at the time what the world would look like 6 or 8 weeks hence when we would be here. And you might say, well, not much has improved. What are the miracles and wonders? Miracles are something we manifest through activity. They're not just things that happen to us. We call situations miraculous. But really there's a process, and it's also, as I'm going to show you, a collaborative process. See, I grew up in a Christian household hearing about Jesus. And in that story, God sent his only son into the world and for a certain purpose. But his son being here, possessing God qualities, was able to do miraculous things. He was able to heal. He was able to manifest things out of thin air. He was able to mess with the elements and still the storm and walk across the water and so on. And so he was this remarkable, miraculous individual. And I came away from that thinking, I went to a church school for actually much of my education, and so, you got a lot of this, and I came away from that thinking, wow, what a guy. What a guy. What a God. What a God. What a God who had a son and, who came in here and did all of this stuff. And so I personalized it, I localized it, and I also antiquated it. 2,000 years ago, this miraculous stuff happened over there, and if I believe in it, then good for me. What I didn't take away from the story was the collaborative nature of miraculous work, much less the idea that each one of us is the incarnation of Spirit. God's son, God's daughter, God's gender fluid, gender liquid being in form, in expression. Not only humans, by the way, but all things that exist. Certainly all sentient beings. I would say all beings. I would say all things too, including that which doesn't seem to possess consciousness. All are instruments of the divine, of the miraculous intention, the collaborative process. But I have no power to move around other parts of the collaboration. I only direct me. And that's why New Thought teaching is all about the self. It's not at all because we're trying to be selfish, private, and narrow in our outlook or in the way we work in our world. It's because this is the only place where I have control, where I have agency, is within myself. I can't choose your thoughts for you. That would be creepy, wouldn't it? Yeah. I can't make you feel a certain way. You might say, well, yeah, you can, because people do. But actually, what really happens if you break down the transaction is that they do something and you choose to feel a certain way. But we assign them often the responsibility. But the work is done within the self. And then it becomes collaborative, because then you start to enroll others into your vision, consciously or unconsciously, in terms of what you're going to make of the world. So if I could impress upon all of us today this one idea, it would be that you're a miracle worker in the world. Now, miracles are relative things in the rollout, because there's stuff that happens when you're a little kid that you look around and it seems miraculous to you, but as you grow, I've often used the example of driving a car. All of us here today came in a car. We were driving it, or somebody was driving it. And there was a time when, if you're like me, you watched them do that. And you thought, wow, I don't know how anybody does this thing, moves this gigantic piece of machinery down the road, but there you are. And now you just kind of take it for granted. Music, this instrument was daunting at one point to Jeffrey, this piano. It had to be. He was a little kid and there's a great big piano, and then you grow into it. So a lot of miracles are just information you haven't gotten yet, because you haven't matured into them. And then there are the miracles that nobody can explain. How suddenly healing occurs. How suddenly peace breaks out. How suddenly there's wholeness and there's joy. Nobody can explain these things. And sometimes we over-try to explain them, to make this normal, to make this rational, when it's non-rational, when it's non-physical. You see, in this teaching, we have this belief that there's a non-physical reality that is the prime source of each of us. We are non-physical beings who chose to incarnate in physicality. We're not really sure why we chose to do that, but now that we're here, we get to decide how we're going to play in the world, how we're going to be in the world together. Okay? Well, the miraculous nature of things is the remembrance of the divine nature, the non-physical nature of you, as you are busy going about your life, busy going about your day. You and I have powers. We have superpowers at our disposal. Again, they're not private to us. They're ubiquitous across the world. But we have powers that we don't use most of the time. For one reason, we don't need to most of the time. You go to the grocery store. You have a pocket full of money. You have a list of groceries you want. You push your basket. You load the thing. You go. Nothing about that transaction needed to be otherworldly, did it? Needed to be of a kind of woo-woo spiritual nature. No, it was just a very straightforward kind of thing. But as you're pushing your basket up and down the aisles, you're encountering other godlings. That's where the fun comes in. And that's where the mystery of it all comes in, And then there's the whole, if you want to take it to the biological level, which is fun to do sometimes, there's the fact you're buying food to eat. You're putting it in your body. Your body is doing amazing things with it and causing it to send nutrients throughout itself for the greater support of the physical self that you are. Isn't that amazing? And you're breathing air and you're walking the streets of this world, and the whole thing is miraculous from beginning to end. The fact that we're even here, it's an incredible biological unlikelihood, I guess, that we even showed up in form, and yet here we are. When you look at that, you see that the universe has conspired for you to be here and to be you in this world. A sense of confidence comes over you that's greater than just your education and your background and your accomplishments. It's like you really are God's agent in the world, God's agency in the world. It's expression, it's experience. It hasn't sent you here like it's somewhere else, you know. You get the idea. Rather, you are the latest representation of it. You are the latest leaf on its tree. And again, the collaborative nature of this is that you pull together a cohort of others in terms of your good. You might not even know who they are, you know, but they come together. Like, for example, if you want to buy a different house than the one you're living in, assuming you live in a house, or you want to live anywhere, somewhere different than where you are, right? Well, chances are, unless they're building it from the ground up for you right now, somebody's living in it. So they're going to move out so you can move in. And wherever they're going, somebody's going to move out of there so they can move in. And maybe all these people don't meet each other because the whole thing's done through representatives. But everybody's getting something that they asked for. Everybody's getting something that they voted for, that they chose. Or, in the sad case of homelessness, they're getting something they didn't know they didn't have to have. And that's where we come in, as we who are comfortable most of the time, we who are in charge of our own destiny most of the time, financially, economically, so on. This is where we come in, is to spread the word to the world. You can choose other than this. We're not going to say ever that the people who suffer in this world have chosen to suffer. What we are going to say is that because we've all suffered, and we don't know why, what we do know is that when we set a new course, we find a new energy. I'll talk a little bit about COVID for a moment. This hit me this morning. You know, most faith centers, aka churches and synagogues and mosques, are not open right now in America on Sundays for groups. A few are. I drove past a couple today that are. I drove past one that's jammed, parking lot jammed with cars, you know. And I thought, as I have thought for a really long time, and all of our people here have, it's like, oh, are we doing the right thing? You know, this is another, 24th consecutive Sunday, I believe it is, that we're doing this online only. Are we doing the right thing? And then I thought, yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. Because you know the feeling I can't shake? It'd be like this. What if I had you over for Sunday dinner? Invited the whole congregation. Let's come over for Sunday dinner. But I got to let you know, some of the food may be tainted. It might make you sick. It might take you out of this world. I can't promise that it won't. Now, come on over. What time can I expect you? And have a good time when you get here. Would you come? Maybe. Would you eat? Maybe. Pick at it a little. Would you feel completely relaxed and have a good time and really settle into the experience? I doubt it. There'd be this nagging worry out here. I don't want you to have this nagging worry out here when you're in this house where we are your hosts. I want your greatest concern here to be, is the coffee ready? That kind of thing, you know? Because we are your hosts and we take good care of you. So there's a matter of responsibility. There's a matter of responsibility. You heard the expression, it's not your responsibility, but it is your problem. Well, some things are both your responsibility and your problem. The choices that we make collaboratively for the good of others inevitably rebound on us. So if we said, well, we'd love to have a room full of people because they'd all give money, we'd pass baskets and there'd be lots and lots of money. That's an unworthy reason, isn't it, to crowd people into the room? And it goes back to then, what's the feeling that I have about my supply, my connection to my supply? What am I really saying about what? It's like if I had to betray my ideals in order to keep friends in my life, then what are my ideals? And who are my friends, you know? And so you learn an awful lot about yourself by the goals that you set, the miracles that you seek to work. Sometimes the miracles are about, oh, God, get me out of this one that I got myself into again. And part of the miracle there is the recognition that one more time you might have dug a hole and stepped into it. Part of the recognition is in our failures, in our breakdowns, in our losses, that what I tried didn't work again. What I've tried repeatedly didn't work again. So I learn, so I grow, so I change. And as we grow and as we recognize our own inner agency, we look around this world and we take spiritual responsibility for more and not less. And this is where I want to kind of wrap the thing up today. It's not time to hit the exit music, but it's going to take me a while, but there are people who ask about new thought and metaphysics. They'll say, am I not just wasting my time sitting here having positive thoughts about these massive global problems? And my answer is no, you're not wasting your time. You're repurposing your time, using it differently. All right? Right now, among all of the situations going on in the world, I'm going to use one as an example, which is the wildfires in California. I have friends in and around Santa Rosa, Santa Cruz, up wine country north of San Francisco. I'm concerned about them. But if I didn't, I have friends in New Orleans too, where storms are headed. But I want to look at the wildfires, for example. You say, well, what can I possibly do about that? You know, all of this prayer jazz is great. All of this positive intention and knowing keeping the high watch, knowing the best and all is terrific. But what they need out there is more personnel, more equipment, more money, and more luck to quench these fires. Luck in the sense of, hey, it starts to rain or the winds shift, And how in the world can I, at my personal local level, affect any of that? And my answer is, I don't know. I don't know how you can. And I don't know how that's your responsibility to come up with billions more in funding, your personal self, for this. Or where you're going to find trained firefighters. Now you might say, I'm going to get in the truck and drive out there with my shovel and hard hat. And I would ask, well, do you know what you're doing? Because you might just be in the way. So I don't know what at a personal level we can do at the macro level, but here's where our responsibility does come in. In everything I just listed, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? When I say more personnel, more money, more this, were you sitting there saying to yourself, nope, ain't gonna happen, no way, nope, it's too much, See, that's where you do the work. That's where I do the work. How would it be if somehow everything that was necessary were to be manifested? Would that be all right with me? Would it be all right with me if there was nobody to blame? No agencies, no governments, no them. Nobody to blame for how things got this way. Would it be all right with me? I mean, that's a legitimate question to ask. Is it all right with you? Because if it's not all right with you, you're blaming somebody from long ago, and it's deep down inside, and you hurt. And that's to be addressed first, really, before you have the clarity to do the work effectively in the larger world. We're always working at both levels at once. But here's the thing, is we push back from the news and we sit there and we decide how we're going to feel about it. Maybe we're angry about it, or maybe we pity the situation and the people involved. Oh, it's just terrible, and I don't see how it's going to. And this is where we have a choice. This right here is where we have a choice. And this is why we who practice metaphysics endeavor. Do we remember all the time? Of course not. And things overtake us, and push our personal buttons and stuff to where we're just not able to in the moment. But then we snap back to the recognition that I can feel about this a hopeful way. I can feel about this an empowered way. I can claim that out of every no, there's being forged a yes. I have three choices when it comes to observing a situation. One is I can say, nope, it's never going to happen, be all negative about it and stuff. I have another choice, which is to be optimistic about it and believe that somehow good is coming out of it, or I can ignore the thing altogether, which is my third choice. One of the great misunderstandings about spiritual work that goes back to, although it didn't begin there, the idea of the singularity of somebody like Jesus the Christ is that only every once in a while, every couple of millennia, does somebody come along who has God's attention and who can work this strange magic in the world, when in fact the whole purpose of spiritual practice, spiritual life, is for you and me to do it. So I'll close with this. You remember how, I want you to jump ahead and you're thinking, do something here. You remember how when you've read these articles that say things like, if you, they always point at you in these articles, if you had saved $5 a week starting when you were 12. You remember these? Okay. Today, multi-millionaire, right? And you read this and you think, I didn't do that. I don't know anybody who did that. Somewhere out there's somebody who did that, not the author of the article, you know. Somebody, there's stuff, if only you had begun doing the preparations earlier before you needed it, you'd have all this power now. I want you to realize that at the deepest possible level, you were saving $5 out of every paycheck. The spiritual equivalent of that. You have been banking good intention, banking good thoughts. You've got a lot of love in your life, a lot of blessing in your life. People have come to you hurting, and your heart has opened to them, and you have banked that as spiritual tools, karma, whatever you want to call it, something that you can call on today. And you take the necessary steps in your life to do what needs to be done, what's in front of you to do, whether that's grocery shopping or preparing for the possibility of heavy weather. And you do that, but you keep your energy emotionally focused on joy, focused on what you prefer to have happen, focused on the world that works, a world that works for everyone in it. And suddenly you'll find that your hands are doing useful things. You'll find skills passing through you didn't know you had. You'll find that you really are part of the answer. And the world will seek you out for specific tasks even. You'll see the sense of now being a true co-creator. Because now you know you are. You've always been. But what good is it if you don't know you are? Now you know you are. See? And now you're participating in building this thing that the poets and the spiritual teachers down through the ages have called heaven on earth. So let's know together now there is one life, one power, one presence, pure spirit, everywhere manifesting, everywhere radiant, everywhere beautiful. Here in our part of the world today, it's still summer, still hot, still kind of sticky. The winds have turned and we're told there are storms. And elsewhere, winds are needed, and a storm might be useful right about now. Whatever we have in one place that seems like too much might be just enough somewhere else. And so I affirm and know balance in our world. A balance between choosing and willingness, balance between holding on and letting go. Just as my body breathes in inhales and exhales. Just as every system functions in a dual or more varied way, though never in opposition to itself. So I affirm and know that in human conditions, global conditions, there's a balancing out taking place. Responsibility without blame, accountability without shame, power without force, authenticity without aggression. We know how to do this. It's built into us by nature. We may have temporarily forgotten. Now I claim we remember. And for all of the small, simple joys of life that serve as reminders of a greater, miraculous envelopment within the divine idea, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into perfect, receptive, productive law of mind and heart, and call it done. And so it is.
All right. I want to say thank you to all of y'all who pointed out that the sound was a little weird today, because immediately all of us flew into action to try and figure out what the problem was. After, 24 weeks, we thought we had it down, and then the universe threw us a monkey wrench so that we would get back up on our game. Trust me, nothing about this is routine. So thank you very much for saying, hey, fix the sound. I thought I had done everything right, honestly, and I forgot to check for the green light. So, yes, we have Laura and Marco, who are headed into the Gulf, and we have Colorado and California, who need Laura and Marco. So, I would like to give Laura and Marco their marching orders, that they are welcome to swing through us and bring us a little bit of rain, and then they need to head to California and Colorado, because I have a classmate in Grand Junction, and one of the pictures that I saw was, so this is my intention that I'm taking out of my bank and sending out into the universe. So please join me in knowing that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And in that love, all things are possible. So I'm knowing safety. I am knowing healing. I am knowing gentleness in the weather. I am knowing that the resources that are needed are reorganizing themselves right now to be where they need to be when they need to be. Because the good news is, time means nothing to spirit. So in this knowing, I am knowing that each and every one of us is safe, that each and every one of us is comfortable, and each and every one of us knows that we are spirit. We are godlings. We are having an experience in this world that can only be had by us. We are necessary. You are necessary. You are loved. And I'm grateful to know this. And I'm grateful for these people here. And I'm grateful for all of you watching. And I'm grateful for the experiences that we get to have. And I'm grateful to know that we have a choice to choose other experiences when the choices that we have made are no longer serving us. And I know this at the deepest part of me where nothing has ever been wrong. And I release it out into the universe, knowing that it is so. And so it is.
Say it with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.